Okay, so we'll go ahead and start. 3 minutes late, not too bad. Um, just looking at the list of folks who have joined, I noticed that our friend Petrovich is here, who is my lead engineer, who builds all of our built our flight model system and physics system and systems and all that good stuff. So say hi to Petrovich. I don't know if he'll want to chime in on anything. His English is not the best, but he's welcome to if he wants to. Are you there, Andre?
Yes, thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Afternoon.
Ugh. You're Andre. You're echoing quite a bit on the feedback on from the TeamSpeak. Just so you know. Okay, let's start. Who, if you have a question, just open your mic and say I have a question, and I will call on you. We have plenty of time, so you don't have to go crazy. I'll try to give a short but a concise answer so we're not here all day. I have a maximum time of 3 hours today, then I have to be somewhere. So let's start. Who has a question?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. Was it Drifter?
Yes, this is Drifter. This question is from Coconut, so this is the credit.
Okay.
The question is, which of the existing content from Rise of Flight will remain usable? Missions, mods, campaigns?
Well, you mean as far as what's going to be in Flying Circus?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. All right, let me turn the volume up on my headset just a little bit. Okay, well, with regards to Flying Circus, so for us to begin this process of moving, or I shouldn't say moving, well, sort of moving, refurbishing and moving content from Rise of Flight into into our what we call the digital warfare engine, or the Sturmovik engine for short. We needed to find a way to do that without breaking the bank or tying up the team to the point where we couldn't make Bodenplatte. And before I go any further, guys, please mute your mic. I'm hearing dishes and all kinds of stuff in the background. Oh, thank you. Anyways, about what's coming over. So primarily what's coming over are the airplanes. The 10 airplanes that I mentioned in the post. I've picked essentially some of our best ones for this first product. It's essentially a plane set from the summer of 1918 or late spring 1918. And for us to get them refurbished and into the engine, we have to use one of our development partners who has agreed to be the outfit that refurbishes or improves the airplanes. And by improve, I mean improve the mesh, maybe improve the textures, look for, problems that might result from importing them into the new engine, possibly redo the skins and the templates. So there's going to be some of it that looks familiar and some of it's going to look improved. We imported the Fokker DR1 into the engine several months ago to take a look at it. And when I saw it in the engine in the office with flying around with a World War II flight model, which was kind of funny, it held up. The plane looked great. It looked great in the engine. So I don't think we're going to have to do a ton of work to the planes to make them look good, but we hope to improve them in some way. But we hope to do this quickly. The faster we can refurbish the planes and bring them into the engine, the faster you'll have an opportunity to fly them in the new engine. Then we're going to build a map that's about 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers from the larger Rise of Flight map, which covers most of the Western Front. And we're doing that because our partner, who's going to be building the map, they built a map for us in the past, but it's been a few years, And the technology to build a map in the Sturmovik engine is a little bit different from our Rise of Flight technology. So they need to reacquaint themselves with the map making process. But as they make the map, we've asked them to somehow make the villages and the airfields and the map itself look a little bit better than the old Rise of Flight map, simply because our technology is better. So you have to do all new textures. You can use or you can bring in buildings and airfield objects and stuff from Rise of Flight, but we're hoping to somehow make them look better. So the small map gives us an opportunity to allow that team to reacquaint themselves with how to make our maps. The airplanes we're bringing in and refurbishing allow them an opportunity to see what can be done with these models. That process alone is going to take like a year. So doing a career at this point isn't on our list for Flying Circus, at least not yet, simply because we don't have the full map yet, and we're busy building the career for Bodenplatte, which takes priority. The purpose of Flying Circus is to take one first step back into World War One, give our World War One customers something to cheer about, something to play, something to have fun with. Check out the new technology, VR and all that stuff with Rise of Flight content. And in a rather, at least for us, a rapid fashion, create a World War One product that will get us back in the game of World War One. Then on follow-up products, assuming how fast this process goes with Flying Circus Volume 2, I hope to have the full map of France, and then bring in another plane set that is a different, maybe 1917 plane set or something like that. The reason we're not starting at 1916 and moving forward is simply because we know from experience the older airplanes in Rise of Flight, what older, I mean early war, mid-war planes, although interesting, they weren't as popular as the planes from 1918. So we want to come out of the box as strong as possible, and then with future products, bring in interesting airplanes, but then take the time to build a career for it, and maybe a lot more custom missions and things like that. So it's going to be a process. This isn't going to happen overnight, but it's going to be hopefully a faster process than what we normally do for Sturmovik products, because we already have the models, and we've already done the research, and we already have a lot of assets as far as content that we can refurbish to bring into Sturmovik. So as far as single missions and quick mission and multiplayer missions, all that stuff is going to be available. The only thing in Flying Circus that will not be fully fleshed out yet is the career and the map itself. I hope that answers your question. I kind of went long on that, but that's the goal with Flying Circus.
Yeah, right. If I could just add on to it really quick. So pretty much Flying Circus is just going to be a refurbishing, or you're just going to be refurbishing it. So does this mean, will it come out before Bodenplatte, or will Bodenplatte come out first?
Bodenplatte is not going to be done until sometime in 2019. So Bodenplatte is going to be a long. Well, it's going to be similar in length. Actually, it's a month shorter than we spent on Kuban, all said. So it's about normal for us. It's about a 20-month process. We've just been a lot more transparent on when we're starting Bodenplatte development than we did with Kuban, because Kuban development started a few months before we announced it. This time with Bodenplatte, we're announcing it right away and putting it up for pre-order, because we'll get to early access, in the first half of next year, no problem, once we start building the planes. But Flying Circus, we hope will take about 10 to 12 months to get up and going, and as far as releasing all of the content. But again, we might run into problems. There might be unforeseen issues. But the goal is to do it relatively quickly.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
All right, you got it. All right, anybody else?
Yep.
I got one.
I'd like.
Okay, was it Tomio or Custard? Was that it?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay, go ahead, Tomio. Custard, you can go. You can go after that. How's that?
Okay,
Many of us are disappointed with Postpone of Pacific,
Mm-hmm.
but you gave explanation about that. However, with Flying Circus and Tank Crew Products, can we expect Pacific in 2019, or it will be even longer?
Well, unfortunately, based on the size of our team and the budget that I have, I'm going to spend the next year or so doing the research necessary to make the Pacific the way, at least up to the standard that I think you guys are going to want. I've explained why I postponed the Pacific, and honestly, guys, it's a lot of work for our small team because we were struggling to find a way to make the ships. We looked at acquiring ships from other sources, but even that process revealed that we would have to do quite a bit of modification to the ship models to match our damage model system. And we were hoping to improve the ship damage model system, so that was going to take some time. Petrovich here, who's listening in, he has to build the aircraft carrier physics system, and that was proving to be quite the task. And then, of course, the Japanese airplanes, their cockpits and their systems are not as well known to us in the West. So when I started to do research on the airplanes themselves, I found myself finding all of the detailed information that we need in books that are written in Japanese. So that showed me that, oh, crap, I have to translate all these books, or at least partial translations of these books. And I started looking for people to help me with the translations. And although I found people who could help me, I have to pay them. And some folks wanted a lot of money. Some folks were very reasonable. So when you add all that up together, you find out that this is a unique situation where we're going to have to either build ships or buy ships. In every case, we're going to have to modify the ship models if we acquire them from a third party. I have to do a lot of translations, and I have to learn everything there is to know about Japanese cockpits, and that's not going to be easy. I am going to make a trip to Japan with somebody here from the U.S. where I can get the manual, the original World War II manuals for certain Japanese airplanes. I've seen one of these manuals in person, and the Japanese had they had a different way of doing their maintenance manuals for airplanes. They're all hand drawn. They're written in an older Japanese style. There's no pictures of the cockpits. Every instrument and gauge is dealt with, and it's like its own chapter. It's a difficult task, and I'm talking about just trying to find information on the Zero, the Val, the Kate, and like the Pete. Just trying to find proper information on these 4 planes is going to be a hard task. So I ended up only having a couple months to put this together for my team so they could begin work if we were going to go to the Pacific. And I just couldn't get it done. So I decided that, the prudent measure is to postpone the Pacific, do the necessary research, find a way to increase our infrastructure, whether it's building ships or building planes, or hopefully in the end run, bringing in more money so we can afford to hire some people to solve some of these problems. So faced with that challenge, that's when I came up with the plan that I announced the other day. My dream has always been to make a really great Pacific product. It still is. I've been trying for 10 years. That's why I got into this business in the first place. I really liked Pacific Fighters that we did, or that was put out for the original Sturmovik. I worked on that as a contractor. So if anybody doubts my drive to get to the Pacific, I believe me, I have plenty of drive to make a Pacific product. I love the Battle of Midway. I love the carrier battles. Somebody's echoing. If you could mute your mic. I love all the battles in the Pacific. I wanted to start in Midway so I could build ships and get that process going. But we could do other parts of the Pacific. But just because I choose a different part of the Pacific doesn't mean all of these issues go away. So that's just the way it is. About the delay in the Pacific, yeah, it looks like we're not going to be able to get to it until late 2019. But that doesn't mean in the meantime we're not working on it in some fashion, or doing the necessary research. I wish I had two teams. One could work on Pacific, one could work on Western Front and Eastern Front. I can't convince 1C to make that kind of expansion. We just don't bring in enough money to justify doubling the size of the core team. So I've found a way using third-party developers that we can trust and that are professional. One of them we have a long history with. So by using those third-party professional teams, I've been able to devise a plan along with the help of Han, Daniel, and Petrovich and the guys to come up with a plan to build these three interesting products to satisfy World War II fans, to satisfy our Rise of Flight users, and to hopefully find some new blood in doing a tank simulation. So yeah, Pacific is delayed. I'm not happy about it, but I'm really excited about these three products because there's three different unique products that will really help us expand our user base, expand our revenue base, and become more of a powerful brand as far as entertainment is concerned in the Sturmovik or in the flight sim combat simulator marketplace. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Custer, go ahead.
Hi there, Jason. I noticed in the announcement for Bodenplatte that you were going to introduce new allied and access ground units and scenery. Just a quick question on that. Does that mean we're going to have concentrations of ground troops, or is it just going to be new vehicles? And whatever you decide to do, will that be expanding out to cover the whole series? Thanks.
Well, doing infantry is not really our forte. Vehicles is always going to be our main bread and butter issue. Maybe we can. I mean, I still wish I could find somebody, or I wish that our modeling system could be explained in a way to where there's somebody in the community who could maybe make some kind of infantry personnel to put them on the ground. But then you have to have them move around and do stuff, and that just takes up CPU cycles in a way that I'm not sure there's a great benefit. But we already have AAA units and machine gun units with German, Russian, Soviet soldiers. So we have some ground personnel that can make up a ground battle. Yeah, we're with some of the tanks that are being built for the tank crew title, and then we have a list of stuff like trucks and things like that are going to be built by one of our third-party teams. There's going to be some new ground units for the Allies and the Germans. I would love to have someone in the community or people in the community who are modelers who can build us more ground units for Bodenplatte and the Eastern Front in general. But even though I've put out the call for people like that, it doesn't ever seem to come together where I can find somebody who can work on that with me. But I'll keep trying. But yeah, as far as like ground troops, I don't think there's going to be a lot of soldiers on the ground, but we'll definitely have vehicles. Until we're further in the process and I see how things are going and what we're working with, I can't really promise you anything new on the ground outside of what we already do. So I hope that answers your question, Custard.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Cheers.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, well, I have a question.
Oh, hold on. I can't see the whole. Let me expand my window here. Okay, who had a question?
I had a question, and Garamos seems to.
Who did? Hiramachi?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question in regard to those third parties or those partners that, based on that, helping you with the PO2 or listen up, would you be willing to collaborate with any other third parties? If, for instance, approached by a different company that could help you with the models or maps, would you consider possibility in engaging in such cooperation?
I would, Hero, but I hope that this company has actual professional experience in building airplanes similar to what we have, or vehicles that are similar to what we have, because I don't have an SDK that I can give somebody. I was hoping to have something, but those plans fell through when my lead modeler had to go in the hospital and his whole schedule got screwed up. And it's really difficult to learn how to build planes. Well, first of all, building airplane models is not really even the worst issue. It's the engineering. It's building the flight models. So we're going to have to hire 1 or 2 additional engineers just for these third parties we're already working with to build our these additional airplanes like the PO2. The team that's building the PO2 and the LI2 for us is a team that we've been working with for like 5, 6, 7 years. This isn't a team that just came out of nowhere. They know us very well. We know them. They're reliable. They've already have a long history of building objects for us, so they understand how our engine works. But we still have to train their modelers on how our planes work, and they're going to have to hire an engineer, and we're going to have to train that engineer to build flight models. So it's a huge task, and they're already a Russian team, and it's already a huge task. Whenever I try to think about bringing in somebody from another country, is that team going to go to Russia for a couple months to learn how to build airplanes from somebody that doesn't speak English very well? So this is the problem. These are issues that are very hard to do over email or through Skype. All their time training other teams on how to build stuff, that means that they're not working on the core product that I need them to build. So it's a balancing act. And for Flying Circus, I chose the team that we've already worked with for a number of years. So the transition will be as painless as possible. I'm hoping that they will become good at making airplanes for us, and they'll essentially be a turnkey partner where I could just say, hey guys, I want you to build Flying Circus 2, go for it. Or, hey guys, I want you to build the new Eastern Front plane set, go for it. hell happened here?
There are some sound issues.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Looks like my internet died. I'm sorry, Hero. Did I answer your question okay? Did you hear what I was saying?
Partially, I've missed second half, but regardless, I was just trying to ask you after that if there is a mean to contact you in private in this regard.
Yeah, I thought you had my email.
Well, I tried to contact you a few times on forums. I don't have your email, but if you could provide it to me, I would get in touch with you or provide to my bosses.
My email is very simple. It's jason@777studios.net. Many people email me. No problem. In the forum, I get a lot of private messages, and I can't answer them all.
User disconnect.
Shit.
Hello.
There we go. I hear you.
It's cutting in and out. I don't know where the problem is.
There's a lot of
yeah.
All right. Guys, please mute your microphone because I'm echoing again.
Wake channel.
TeamSpeak user free. Please mute yourself.
User left your channel. Disconnected from your channel.
Good. I don't know if it's
User left.
the server or what.
No, it's TeamSpeak user tree. Just kick him.
Okay. Let's. Who's is it me that's echoing? I keep hearing my voice right back into my headset, guys.
Hey,
Please mute your mic. Maybe it's me.
It's not you.
TeamSpeak user free. Wake up.
TeamSpeak 3. Okay. Is there a TeamSpeak 4?
You gotta scroll all the way down the bottom.
All right, let's try this again.
Hey, wake up.
Okay, who has a question?
Hey,
I have.
Who's that?
Temuri.
All right. Oh, I see who it is. How I mute this guy? Hold on a second here.
He's muted.
Okay, now he's muted. Okay. All right, Temuri, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is pretty much the same as it was a year ago. So, netcode and dedicated server performance improvements. When?
We would like to, if obviously somehow improve our netcode. But it's going to prove finding the time to do it and still being able to provide you with new content and other improvements is difficult. I'm hoping probably not for a while. You might have to wait another year, unfortunately. It's looking at the schedule we've got to do what we want to do. It's going to be difficult. One of the problems is it's to improve our netcode. We have to have our lead programmer work with our lead engineer to do this. This process is going to be difficult to do, and it's going to be time consuming. And I need both these gentlemen to work on other things to improve the features and the gameplay of the product. I understand that our netcode could be better and dedicated server could be better, but they're not completely broken. So I kind of have to make do with what I got at the moment. I'm hoping that with co-op, people will will rely a lot less on dedicated servers, and that groups of users can play together in co-op, and that the performance of the netcode will actually be improved because it's not in a dedicated server environment per se. And I want to get some feedback on how the co-op is working before I dedicate any more resources to netcode issues at this point. So what I will say is I want to get co-op working. I want to see how that experience works with users. I want to talk to Petrovich and to Sergey, my lead programmer, about the experience with co-op. And if people like it, they don't like it, if there's major problems with it, and then make a determination on what we can do in the future as far as netcode going forward. So my short answer is I don't have it in the schedule for the next 12 months or so, but that could change if we find out that our netcode can't even handle co-op. But it's a difficult problem to solve. And if I have Petrovich working on netcode for the next 12 months, that means he's not working on fighter jets, he's not working on fuel tank issues or drop tanks, things like that. So it's not an easy problem. I simply don't have enough people to tackle everything at once.
Yeah,
And,
Jason, I understand.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I do a follow-up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One thing regarding to the netcode, maybe it's not even the netcode here and there, but lately the game got much more popular, and we have now at times like 3 servers full at EU times, even in the evenings and afternoons, which is really great to play. The problem is that the server get full really quickly, and especially the mechanic for queuing systems or something like this, that only one player at a time can join, and then the server gets, for some reason I don't know, I don't have any background on that, but the server gets stressed so hard that it sometimes crashes. And that if we could get a improvement in that regard at any time soon, that would be great. Just as as an opinion here.
Right. I will ask Petrovich if he wants to say anything on this subject, because the biggest issue with our netcode is that we've synchronized just about everything in the game, and everything flying around or falling or driving or all the clouds, everything is all synchronized. So some games cheat and don't synchronize everything. They put some things on client side, etc. There's ways to reduce the netcode load, you should say, but we have to somehow find a way to optimize that, but still give you a good experience in the cockpit. So it's a difficult thing to solve. If Petrovich wants to chime in, he's welcome, but I'm not sure he wants to say anything at this point. Andre, do you want to say anything?
Hi everybody. Again, actually, the netcode task is not completely my task, but
no, not completely yours, but you're part of it.
Yes, that's true. So I agree with you. We need more resources. So we need more programmer for this task, and that's a problem. The main problem for us.
Right.
I think. Right.
So we have a problem with just not enough people, and until I can afford more people and train them up, we're going to be stuck doing things one baby step at a time. So I apologize, I can't do this yet again, but eventually we'll get to it.
I have a question.
Great.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks for the question, Tamuri. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just sort of maybe kind of a tangential follow-on regarding resources. I had a question about how career and air marshal link, because I understood that the same person was going to be working on both, and whether those were still unscheduled, and where air marshal sort of fits in the role of developing the multiplayer community, because I noticed you guys were going to be giving away some of the early Stalingrad planes, and I assume that's to sort of build the online multiplayer community, and what features you have in mind to sort of build a community and like facilitate multiplayer interaction, which I kind of hope the air marshal would do.
Okay. When you say give away some of the content, you mean in the form of a demo?
Yes. I think you'd mention in the announcements.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have a demo, but it's not going to be much content. It's primarily going to be one plane, probably on one map, with certain features available and certain features not available. As far as the career goes, a lot of that work is done by our lead GUI engineer who designs our GUI, and that takes up a lot of effort, or it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, and that task is coming to a completion because he pretty much finished the career implementation, and now he's focusing on air marshal, and actually we're on co-op right now, and then he's got to work on the air marshal. Air marshal involves not just multiplayer, it also involves a lot of interaction with our GUI. So getting the information from the multiplayer environment is not so hard. It's implementing it into the GUI, into some kind of, and we say GUI, we don't mean the menu. We mean like in the multiplayer environment, there has to be some kind of graphical presentation of what's happening for the air marshal to manage. And that is where that work comes in. And he's going to be tackling that at the end of this year. And that might take a month or two. So that feature might not be done till like, say, January or later, but it's going to get done. How it actually looks and all the features that it has, we've studied it and we've told him what to build, but I don't have a working prototype yet for beta testers. So I won't know exactly how that's going to impact multiplayer until I see if we were able to accomplish our development goal or not. The goal of Air Marshal was simply to give somebody in the multiplayer environment the ability to see what's happening on the battlefield in some kind of realistic manner, like using reports from the battlefield or radar, or some kind of ability to direct your team to the fight or direct your team to objectives. So multiplayer is more interesting for both sides. And if the person directing the traffic is good at it and can do it in kind of a realistic manner, using combat terminology and military jargon and things like that, or air traffic control procedures, I think multiplayer would be a lot more interesting for hardcore players like we have. So that's the goal with Air Marshal. I haven't seen a working prototype yet. I have, of course, given them my design document for it, and we've had meetings on it in Moscow to design it. So I hope that it will make multiplayer more interesting. Of course, multiplayer is more interesting. More people will play multiplayer. More servers will pop up, and when we have co-op, more people will be playing co-op with it. So as with anything new like this, it's an experiment, but we hope that it'll be an interesting one and people will like it.
Will it be voice dependent, or will there be some kind of like constrained menu system to get around the multilingual problems?
Well, there'll be some kind of graphical representation for people on your team, like the air marshal might be able to point out or place a marker on the map of where you should head, or add a waypoint or something like that. But the information coming to the air marshal will be information that other players don't get to see if you're in the cockpit or even necessarily in the lobby. But the air marshal will get privileged information, and then it's the air marshal's duty to disseminate that information to your team to help them win the battle. But there might be some kind of way to place a marker, not necessarily in the sky, but place it on your mini map of like, hey, enemy tank spotted here, and then direct that flight to that waypoint, and you can find the enemy tanks, that kind of stuff.
And appreciate it. One final question: will the players be able to deliver information to the air marshal, or the air marshal is taking the information from an abstracted layer that where the players? Is it a one-way communication channel or bidirectional?
Right now I envision it more as a one-way thing, because if every pilot can place stuff on other people's maps, I'm worried about net traffic, but two, I'm worried about that's not very realistic. For instance,
No, I meant players talking to the air marshal, not to everyone else.
Well, you can talk, TeamSpeak, just like we're doing now.
Okay, so I guess there's no non-voice component to communicate with the air marshal.
Not from the pilot perspective, but what I'm saying is the air marshal can communicate to the pilots.
Okay, no, okay, thank you.
What I'd like to develop here is a whole new way of playing, not a new way, but a new position within our multiplayer environment, where good air marshals are going to want to have a good air marshal on your team, because it helps shape up the battlefield. And I know that there's somebody here listening today that has real world military experience that would probably be very, very good at being an air marshal. So this is the kind of people I want involved in our multiplayer environment. Right. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So
I'm very much looking forward.
That person shall remain nameless, of course. Okay, anybody else? Next question.
Yeah, I got a question actually.
I'll tell you what. You know what? Last time I asked you to put if you had a question, to put it in the chat at the bottom. So why don't you go ahead and start doing that, so we don't talk over each other. Sorry, I forgot about that. So I saw a couple people light up here. Go ahead and just post it in the chat, in the lobby, or in the chat at the bottom of the screen, and I'll call on you. Down here, guys. Whoops.
Anyone can hear?
Yeah. Anybody? Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Okay. No, calling on people. They're not asking the question, so I'm just going to go down the list if you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay. Let's go to Magnum. Asgar and then Magnum. Asgar, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
In a previous Q&A session, you talked about how the Ju-52 showed you that creating AI aircraft takes up almost as much resource as creating a flyable aircraft, and you didn't want to do any more of those. So I was wondering what made you change your opinion on that and create the B-25 as an AI aircraft.
Well, I think you maybe misunderstood me a little bit. They take up almost as much time in the schedule to build and to implement. They take up fewer people to make an AI plane because we don't need to build the cockpit. However, as far as tying up individuals in the schedule, the length of time is about the same. I'm saying is a lot of people would say to us, why don't you have more AI planes? They're easier to build. Yeah, they're easier to build, but part as to why we don't build more AI planes. However, the B-25, so I wanted to build the B-26 because it was important to the Western Front, but the B-25 was present not just in the theater, but there was some British B-25 units that were part of the Battle of Bodenplatte that were definitely in the mix in that time period. And the B-25 is also a great airplane for the Eastern Front because the Soviets use them as well. And they're a good plane for the future Pacific scenario. So I decided to forego my love affair with the B-26 for now and focus on the B-25. The B-25 is a plane that in the future, when I have the resources available, that is a plane that is buildable for us as far as cockpits and everything. So that's why I decided to go with the B-25. And we're going to first make it AI, but it's going to be a nice model. It's going to have everything we need to make it flyable in the future. The B-26 is debatable as to whether or not I could make it flyable in the future. So the B-25 is what we're going to go with for Bodenplatte, with hopefully in the future, again, as I build up more and more infrastructure and get more and more people involved, hopefully I can make more planes flyable or more AI planes. But the B-25 is going to be AI for now, but then eventually hopefully make it flyable. But AI planes take up less people, but they take the same amount of time. I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Magnum.
Okay, hello, Jason.
Hi.
So this question has already been talked on the forums a lot.
Mhm.
You already gave some insight, and I wanted to ask you about decals or the numbers.
Vehicle.
Yes, vehicle decals.
Vehicle decals. Okay.
Yes, I played
Mhm.
1946.
Mhm.
That was a major component in the campaign, especially because I could distinguish my teammates and in which order the formation should be. So, since we are introducing the campaign soon, is it going to be implemented? Is there a schedule for it, or is it not considered yet?
No, I want to build some kind of decal system. I still do. It was in our schedule for Kuban to try it, to check it out, to see what we could do, but things didn't always go to plan, and I had to decide whether or not to devote resources to it. And there were other more pressing matters that we had to attend to, so I dropped it from the Kuban schedule. I hope to get to it during Bodenplatte. I hope we can find the time to have our lead programmer work with our lead modeler to find a way to build a texture system to apply decals to the planes. I know it was a major part of the original Sturmovik, but that's never been part of our engine, and it's a new feature we have to build. And I wish we had it, but we don't. But I hope we can find a way to build it. I just don't have an easy answer for it, other than I'm going to keep trying to add it to the schedule, and hopefully I can eventually get to it.
Okay, that's enough for me. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. I'm sorry, guys, if my voice is breaking up, it's my internet. I apologize. There's nothing else I can do. Hang in there. Okay, that was Magnum. Too many questions. Okay. Okay, McLeod, you had a question?
I think you jumped me, Jason.
Who did I skip?
Ramos.
Oh, Dramos. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question is concerning about the new Bodenplatte map.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of new planes with a lot of fuel load, and if it's going to be modeled how the fuel affects the center of gravity of the plane and the trim setup, because on that big fuel load planes we are going to have, I think this is gonna change drastically the handling on the plane. The P-51 and I don't know, with fuel on the wings, and if you have a damage on one wing and you lose the fuel there, how it is going to affect the balance and so on.
Okay, for some reason I didn't follow that very well. Can you ask it again? I'm sorry.
Okay.
You asked about the map, I thought, but then you ended up talking about the wings. So my apologies.
Yeah.
Try again.
We are going to have a lot of new planes.
Yeah, new planes.
Had a lot of fuel inside.
A lot of fuel. Okay.
Yeah. So on these planes, the fuel load is very important, and how it's going to affect the center of gravity of the plane and the balance of the plane. If you have some damage on one wing and you lose all your fuel from there, and because now currently it's not modeled, for example, on, I don't know, planes that now have the depots on the wings. So on these new planes, it's going to be more important than now.
Okay. All right. So you're asking about the fuel tanks and damage to fuel tanks and the weight of the fuel and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, and how it affects to the twin setup, the balance, etc.
Well, that's a question for Petrovich. I don't know if he wants to say anything, but we hope to improve our fuel tank modeling in the next development cycle. We know that these planes have like 2, 3, 4, 5 fuel tanks, whatever it is, and we hope to model that a bit more effectively. And that's in our development plan, but we're not going to be able to get to it for a little while. But that's something that our friend Petrovich has to deal with. Andre, do you want to say anything about fuel tanks? It's your favorite subject.
I don't have anything to add. You're absolutely correct.
Okay. So we hope to improve our fuel tank modeling. When that's ready, I don't know yet, but it's in the schedule. And we'll have to see how that turns out. Okay. But thank you for the question. Do you have a follow-up?
One thing more is also about the system. If you plan to model on the future also, the suite of valves on the cooling system, for example.
What about the cooling system? I'm sorry.
Yeah. For example, the 109, I think it has like 2 different cooling systems or circuits for the water radiators.
So
yeah. If you lose or if you have damage on one of the systems, you can use the valve and to close this circuit, and you can run your plane to still. You are not going to lose all your cooling. I mean,
you're saying there's a backup. You're saying there's a backup system for the cooling.
Yeah, you close one of the 2 circuits if you are leaking, for example, the cooling, and if the team is also thinking developing these kind of systems.
Well, it would be cool, but I don't know if we'll be able to do it. That's something I'll have to discuss with Petrovich. As much as I love World War II planes, I'm not an expert on all the different systems and the differences between each airplane design. You know, I know that you guys want as realistic a system as possible, and that's something that, you know, we work on with Petrovich to try to make as realistic as we can within the schedule and resources that we have. Unfortunately, he's the only one on our team that can build that kind of stuff, and I'm constantly giving him a new list of things I want him to build, and I drive him crazy with my dreams. But I'll have to talk to him about that particular issue and see if there's anything we could do. Maybe we already model it in some way, maybe we don't. But I don't have the answer for you right now on what we could do with that particular issue.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
No problem.
While we're on a matter of cooling systems, there's a thing that I have observed that all planes seem to have that. Well, trying to follow the manual procedure from the IL-2, which we found a manual, and you try to follow the procedure, it's impossible because the engine overcools on the ground, where it's like most of these airplanes, if they're stationary, the cooling radiator wouldn't be effective enough to prevent it from overheating. But then you got planes like the P-40, in which, in situations that in real life, you got like all these videos that we posted on the forums. Even the instructor says like, it's plane, you gotta take off in 5 minutes or shut it down because it will overheat, and we can't reproduce that in the game because it overcools instead.
Okay, all right, Mojo, hold on a second here. Let's not talk out of turn. On these very specific questions about airplanes, all I can say is, some of our systems are modeled quite detailed, and some of our systems are not as detailed. We're not trying to make a study sim where every single system is modeled to the nth degree. If that was the case, we'd be like DCS, and we can only produce a couple planes a year. Our system takes some general approaches to certain issues, and maybe the end result isn't 100% realistic as it would be in real life. Since we don't have a real life P-40 to test its cooling system while it sits on the ground, there are going to be some anomalies that maybe don't match what real pilots say. But again, this comes down to asking Petrovich to look into these issues and to figure out what's realistic and what's not, and is there anything we can do about it. I know you guys get frustrated when something doesn't pan out, but it's a hard thing to get right every single time. So again, send me if there's some issue you want us to check out, you have to send it to me, and I have to ask the team on what's up with this one particular issue. So all I can say is we do our best, the best that we can with how our system is currently designed. To get it all 100% accurate to real life, that's a hard thing to do, but we try our best. I don't, in this particular issue with the cooling, I don't have an answer for you. I have to, and then if I had Petrovich explain to you right now how our cooling system works and all these 30 different airplanes and how they act on the ground with the engine idling or whatever, we'll be here all day. So I'm not trying to dodge the question. I just don't have an answer for you.
That's okay.
But let me just say, Petrovich, is there anything you want to say on this particular subject since you're here?
Well, it's a really long long thing for explain all this stuff in cooling system or fuel system, and yes, we have just 3 months for each airplane to develop it, and that's actually not enough for simulate 100% of real life, of course. So you're right. We just do what we can do in this time, and yes, I exactly understand what issues you are talking about, guys. With cooling system, and I just can say we will do some review maybe next year with some issues of you mentioned it, but that's all.
All right. So Andre is aware of some of these issues that you're talking about, and he does his best to take a look at particular issues that pop up. So, screaming about stuff on the forum, I get it. You guys want to get our attention, but sometimes we don't have time to read everything on the forum and watch a bunch of videos. But I assure you that that Andre and the flight model team, they do their best in the time that they have available, and that we have made great strides in making better flight models. And given an unlimited schedule, unlimited budget, yeah, we can have things even better than they are today. But when it comes to a specific issue about this plane or that plane doesn't cool correctly or heat up correctly, that's something you just got to send me in a message with some detailed analysis, and I'll ask the team what they think about it. Doesn't mean the team will investigate it any further, but I can at least present it to them and say, this is what people in the forum are saying about this particular issue with this particular plane.
The reason I brought it up was mostly because it seems to be a common feature of all the airplanes. So,
well, it might be a limitation of some sort that we don't have an answer to right now. Very possible, but try not to let the plane cooling off too much ruin your fun. But I know it's frustrating because we're trying to build a simulation. Who's got the music going? Monster! How do I kick this guy? Okay, well, I guess he's gone. All right, so back to this issue. Let's just try to keep an open mind, and I'll try to have the guys look at the cooling issue in the future.
Oh, that's wonderful. While we're on the subject of cooling, this is a thing I asked on the Q&A question forum, and Hans said only Petrovich could answer it. Now that he's here, is the Meredith effect simulated, like in the game, like the that effect that if you close your cooling radiator just right, you get an extra boost in power of it? Like I posted a link to Wikipedia link about it, and now with the P-51 coming, it's kind of a thing.
I don't know. Personally, I'm not familiar with that effect. Petrovich, do you want to say anything about it?
Sorry, guys, I don't understand the question.
He's saying that if you manage a radiator, there's like a sweet spot in the radiator settings to where the temperature of the engine actually is optimal, and you'll get a boost in performance. It's called the Meredith effect.
I understand you are talking about the managed radiator, but I don't understand what kind of manage do you mean?
It's the effect is basically if the radiator is closed, it acts sort of as a ram air turbine, because the hot air from the engine heats up the air in the radiator such that the pressure of the air coming out the back is higher than the pressure of the air coming in, and that either offsets or the drag from the cooling, or actually aids the plane in gaining extra thrust, as was the case with the P-51 that actually got some, I think, several tens of kilometers extra just from that.
The radiator basically acts like a mini jet engine.
Yep. And we were wondering if that was simulated.
Yes, I got it. No, we don't simulate this this effect yet.
Oh, yet. Nice to know. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to another question or topic instead of getting mired in the weeds on individual plane issues. But thank you for the question. Yet another thing to talk to Petrovich about. Okay, there's a million questions here, or a million people want to ask a question. Okay, Stowinky?
Yeah, Russ. You hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, Jason. A couple of questions for you.
Sure.
The first question is, I actually asked you about this a year ago.
Okay.
In the nearest update, the range of visibility and clouds and the horizons will be changed.
Yeah.
Will they change effects of the old bugs on the clouds? Do you fix the clouds?
I'm sorry. The old what?
Old bugs in the clouds.
Old bugs in the clouds. What bugs are you speaking of?
Actually, now the subjects on maybe plane or another on the background of the clouds are simply invisible for another players.
Yeah, objects on the other side of clouds should not be visible to you in the cockpit. Is that not happening? I'm not following the question. I'm sorry.
I think you can say
Okay,
the way around.
I can,
Planes in front of the clouds tend to become invisible. Sorry.
Planes in front of the clouds seem to become invisible.
Yep.
Yeah, that has been happening perhaps more often since the latest updates. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've seen it as well a lot.
I'm not aware of this bug, so I'm sorry. I know that when planes fly in front of the cloud, sometimes you can get a weird outline of the plane. But as far as the plane actually disappearing in front of the cloud, you sure it's not inside the cloud?
It is. Yes, it is.
Okay, guys.
I've seen it happen as well. Yeah.
Show me a video. I don't have any evidence of this myself. I'm sorry.
I have 5 video for you, Jason.
Okay, well, put them on YouTube and send me a link, and I'll have to check it out. I don't know what effect you're actually talking about. I haven't seen it. Is this happening in multiplayer or single player?
It's multiplayer and single player, actually, I think.
Okay, well, we have, as far as the increased cloud distance and things of that nature, I don't know if the technology has changed much, so maybe this bug, assuming it's real, is still happening. But I don't have any obvious proof myself. So send me the videos, and if you can document it, I'll talk to my guys about it. But that's kind of news to me. If we talked about it a year ago, I probably gave the same answer, but I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay, and last question, second and last question. Will you make better graphics effects like tracers, explosions, smokes to the output of the game about tanks? Thank you.
I don't expect our effects to make a big change when we do tanks. They'll be similar to what we have now. Maybe we can improve them. I don't have an effects programmer that's dedicated just to doing effects. I still don't have that kind of person. So I don't know exactly how tank explosions and things will improve or not improve at this point. All I can say is I always want to improve our effects. There are several effects I want to improve, but I don't have somebody to do it yet.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, let's try to get through more of these questions. Okay, civil protection. You have a question about tank crew?
Yeah. I had a couple, but briefly before I address that, someone brought up something else. I just wanted to ask you real fast. There seem to be a lot of fighters in the upcoming lineup.
Yep.
That also double as strike bombers. Before I move on to tanks, I'm just wondering: is there going to be any going back over, say, like the A20 and the P40, and just making, redressing them specifically for Western nations, just to flesh out the lineup a little more?
No, not at this point. The A20 is one that people seem to want, but given the opportunity to make all new airplanes or slightly update older planes, I went with the option to make as many new planes as possible.
Okay, I was just curious because you talked about the B-25 earlier, for future updates.
No. See, like, for instance, the A20, I would love to give that to one of our third-party providers and say, here's the existing model. Now you just need to put a turret on it, and then maybe we need to make small adjustments to the flight model. That would be something I'd like to farm out to a third-party team, as opposed to doing it in-house where it would interrupt the guys making a brand new airplane. So it's a balancing act on what do we try to tweak and what do we try to make new. And I decided with Bodenplatte, I wanted to make as many new airplanes as possible to make the title as interesting as possible.
All right, fair enough, fair enough.
Okay.
Now for tanks,
Yeah.
it's a little. I mean, I hate to ask such a general question, but it's very vague on how that'll work. Now we have tanks currently in the
Yeah,
game.
it'll work like it does now.
It'll work exactly like it does now. Okay,
Mhm.
so the mechanics are a little vague, and I'm trying not to ask super specific questions.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
All right, so as far as a multi-crew goes,
Yeah.
if you say it's gonna, you said it's gonna work how it does now. So I assume multi-crew means regardless of how many number or regardless of the crew count, it's going to be 2 players per tank, 1 driver, 1 in the turret. So that's right.
Yeah, it's just like we have with airplanes. You have a multi-crew airplane where somebody can fly. Somebody's the pilot, the driver. Somebody is in a gunner in another position. And then in the case of tanks, you can have one position as the tank commander, who can either be inside the turret or pop his head out and look around and report what's going on and point out targets, etc. So the technology we already have the technology. Let's just put it that way. It's just a matter of applying it to the tanks themselves.
All right, so actually you do have a plan for more than 2 crew members. So it's going to be more than what we currently have. Like
No, we plan to add the tank commander position. I don't know if we can or want to add a machine gunner. I'm not. Again, this is where my age and brain power start to interfere with my work. I don't remember how many crew members were in a typical tank, and I'm sure that some tanks had different number of crew members. Like the Sherman, I think had 4 crew members. There's a driver, a commander, a gunner, but then I think there was probably also a loader. So I don't think we're going to model the loader, but things of that have to be worked out as we dive into modeling the tanks.
All right. I just got, I think, one more question about it.
Sure.
And that is, so I'm assuming that for the tank models, you're going to make at least relatively complex damage models, kind of like what you have now for player tanks. I was wondering if any of that is going to carry over to non-player tanks, and from like a ground attack perspective, instead of just it seems like it's a health model right now.
It's not a health model, but it's not as detailed as you guys want it to be. We model the thickness of the armor, we model the power of the shell, we model penetration values and all that kind of stuff. It's not, and we also model whether it's the side of the tank, the top of the tank, things like that. We don't model each individual compartment and things like that. People like to think it's a health bar kind of situation. It's not really quite like that. It's definitely simplified in some ways, but it's not as detailed as you want. But on the player tanks in the future, we're definitely going to improve the modeling end.
So I'm not talking about the player tanks.
Yeah, you're talking about the AI tanks. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, just to make sure. So there is a model in place right now.
There is.
That'll be adjusted with the new tanks.
Maybe not on the AI tanks, but on player tanks for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Shoot, I don't want to take up any more time. Thanks for answering my question.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for the question. Let me try to find somebody else here. Oh, guys.
Well, sorry, Jason. Can I ask you?
Who's this?
It's Stucky.
Okay, Suki, go ahead. Go ahead.
I am upload the videos from the TeamSpeak chat for you. When you can see it, please.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Send me a private message on the forum.
Okay.
And that way I'll know for sure. Okay, let's back up here. I might have to skip around a little bit, guys. There's a lot of folks wanting to ask questions. Scroll down a little bit. There's just so many.
I think it's JG5 George.
Okay. Lot. Too much chat. Sorry, guys.
Hi,
Who
Jason.
wants?
Hi.
I'm sorry.
Hello, Jason. Yeah, this is another guy in JG5, and I think George is
Okay.
mute, so I want to ask a question. Maybe it's a little
okay.
selfish. It's about the Chinese localization. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of players in China, so they are all very concerned about the Chinese language, especially when you release the carrier mode. Yes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks. I recognize your name, and I've seen that you've bought much of our products, so I appreciate the business. And I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I appreciate my friends in China, getting into Sturmovik. I would very much like to have our game localized into Chinese. I've talked to my partners about this at 1C, and I would like to make that happen, but I'm running into some, I don't know what you want to call it, resistance to that idea, because there seems to be some issue with how games are sold in China, and the question is whether or not just if we localize it, if that's enough, or do we need to sell it in China, or what? So I would love to localize our game into China for the Chinese market, along with some other languages, but that costs money. Doing the menu in Chinese wouldn't be too terribly difficult, I don't think, but localizing the entire career mode would be quite the undertaking, because if we localized everything that we currently have in English into Chinese, that's a pretty big task. It's not impossible, but it would cost us a couple bucks to do. And then once we do that, what do we do with the game? Do we need to sell it in China or not? And I know that you guys have all kinds of issues, like for instance with the Great Firewall. Do you guys have any problem getting through the Great Firewall to log into your account? Like there's these kind of issues.
Yeah, we can use VPN, something like that. And about the Chinese localization, I think we can provide our assistance. If you need help, you can just contact us, and we are happy to provide our help to do the translations.
Right. No, and I realize that, and I appreciate that. Are we talking we're talking mainland China, not Taiwan or Hong Kong or Macau? We are on the mainland?
Yeah, we are in the mainland.
Okay. Is there a particular part of China where there's a lot of players, or are you guys spread out all over?
Sorry, please.
Is there a specific city or town that you guys are from that enjoy Sturmovik, or are you spread out in different provinces and cities?
Everywhere in China.
Everywhere. Okay. Well, no, I'm
Yeah,
just curious. Okay. I'll have to talk about this again with 1C. But what you're saying though is that you have to use a VPN to log into our account, to your account, into our system.
Yes. Mostly we use VPN.
Yeah, I know. See, I think that's one of the issues that 1C doesn't like, is you guys having to use a VPN, because that in general will limit the number of players that can download the game and log in to play the game. But
okay, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. But I'm still interested in doing a localization into Chinese. I just don't know when I can get the approval to do it. So please hang in there.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't even know where I'm at on the list, guys. I'm sorry. Seem to have lost my place.
I think it's Kyle at 10:50 time.
10:50. It's different on my screen. Kyle, do you have a question? I think I called on you earlier, but you didn't ask anything. There? Going once, going twice. Okay. Find somebody else here.
Jason, can I ask something about the visual damage?
Who's this?
Potence.
Oh, potens. Okay, go ahead. Oh, you want to ask about the textures?
Yes, because on the question to developers section of the forum, I asked a few times about why the black stains on the fuselage. Mostly in the Ju-52 was more noticeable because of you have the windows and stuff, and you can see the interior. But when you get the fuselage, some holes on it, there are these black stains. Han actually he answered that it was a limitation of the engine, but never get deep into it. So you have any idea why this is such a limitation?
Yeah, I talked to the guys about this on one of my visits, and they said that they would look into it. But I told them to, whenever possible, not use a decal like that, but to actually poke a hole. And they said that in general, most of these damages where there's a hole involved are not just a decal, but an actual hole. As far as the Ju-52 goes, maybe there's some reason for it. I don't know. Maybe there's no internal structure behind the hole, so it would look ugly, and that the decal is a little bit better looking than the hole itself. But I don't know. I'd have to talk to Han about it and see what the limitation is that he might be referring to.
Yeah, because actually it's quite weird because you can see the windows, so you can see inside the Ju-52. That's why it's maybe I saw for the fighters and other planes there was no internal structure rendered in 3D or something like that. But you can see in the 52 is already there. So that's why that's what my curiosity about the why was such a limitation if you have already a 3D interior of the.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now. It may be an artistic choice that our model team made. It could be I don't think it would be a time-saving thing, but I'd have to ask the guys and see what they say.
Right.
I'll ask Han about the Ju-52 damage textures.
All right, it's okay. I was curious about it because you can see the holes on the wings and tail sections, stabilizers and stuff, but not on the fuselage. I was just curious about it.
Okay. All right. I don't know where we're at now.
I have a question.
Okay, we'll just start over here, guys. I'm sorry.
George.
Let's start over. Okay, George, go ahead.
My question is, do you think the PE2's gunner is too powerful?
the PE2, the defensive gunner?
Actually, like snipers, I mean.
Oh, so AI gunners are a difficult thing to program because you have to program them to not always hit you, even though they know exactly how to hit you. We have to build in some kind of randomness to mimic human behavior or human skill. And it's proven difficult over the years because the sniper AI gunner issue has been around for a long time, and we've tried to address it, but then sometimes we address it and they never hit you, and sometimes we make changes and they hit you every time. I don't know the right answer. This is something for our AI programmer to try to work on, but we don't. Again, like everything, a lot of our guys wear different hats on the team. But I don't have a dedicated AI programmer, and I think the way the gunners are modeled right now is probably about the best compromise we can currently make. I understand your frustration, but our AI are very smart and they always know how to hit you. But you can do some maneuvering and adopt some tactics to make it less likely to be hit. But if you just park on their rear bumper and try to shoot them, you're going to get hit. And again, it's a video game; it's not real life. So the trying to mimic the real world physical environment is difficult, and then trying to make an AI gunner react in a human fashion and make human type mistakes and miss you is also difficult. But all I can say is
sometimes they they even shoot when the plane's doing some crazy maneuver, like
yeah.
Yeah.
There have been videos posted.
Yeah, I'm sure there has been, guys. All I can say is it's a difficult problem to fix. We had the similar issue in other games and other sims, 1946 and others, and it's just I don't know exactly what their solution was because I wasn't in charge way back when, but I know it's an issue, and I just don't have a clear answer for you. It just
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If I may interject.
Okay, who's this?
Incompetent.
Okay, incompetent. Go ahead.
I think one issue with the AI gunners that caused the reaction of them being unbelievably accurate is that it seems to be, of course, one brain for all the guns, which I can understand because it's a CPU cheap way to handle it. But that, of course, means that once you pass out of the firing arc of one gun and enter another, that gunner immediately knows where you are and how to track you, even though he would have to reacquire a new target. And I think that is an issue that causes many of these dislikes for the gunners.
I'll correct you a little bit. The reason our airplanes, our bombers and stuff with multiple gunners take up so much resources is because it's not just one brain for the entire airplane. It's actually each gunner has its own brain. So all I can say is they're actually just very smart brains, and they're just able to track you as soon as you appear into their field of fire. So again, I'm sorry they're so accurate. I haven't seen a lot of complaints about this recently. Maybe I'm just purposely not noticing them, but I have to talk to the guys about possibly adjusting it further. But I'll talk to Daniel about this and see if there's anything else further that we can do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Too accurate. I'm taking notes here. Okay. The chat has got a million people in here. Who else has a question, guys? Anything about the new products instead of rehashing old bugs and issues that we could talk about all day? But feel free. Next question.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Murph.
Hey, Murph.
Hey, I posted on the forums that didn't get a lot of traction, but for Airfield, you were talking about modeling way earlier, probably an hour ago. For models, is it possible to import models from Cliffs? They have a lot of good airfield models. I was just wondering if bringing those over was feasible at all.
Yeah, any mesh that exists, we could bring over. I think my guys don't really like bringing in Cliffs of Dover models simply because of the bad blood that existed for so long between that product and our product. So I know that there are some. I know that we have them. At least I'm pretty sure we have them because we sent them all to Team Fusion. So yeah, it's a possibility. I'd have to talk to our guy in charge of the repository and see what's available. Maybe they've already looked at them. Maybe they don't like them. I don't know. I'll have to look into it further. I'm not although I put in my 2 cents on art direction, I'm not always dictating to them how to work on our assets. I give our artists a certain amount of freedom to make our models, our scenery, and things. I give them a pretty wide berth to build what they want to build, to make a pretty scene. But yeah, I know people have brought that up on the forums before. I just haven't dictated to the team that they need to do that. They're required to bring in those models. Maybe
Yeah, I'm not looking for airplanes or
I know.
anything
You're looking for
significant.
scenery
Just,
out of it.
yeah, scenery
I
and
know.
ground handling equipment.
Yeah, but also I think Cliffs of Dover uses a different type of damage model system than us too. So just bringing in a mesh, it's going to bring in also all of the damage models, textures, and how it breaks apart and all that kind of stuff. And it just may not be compatible with our engine because they're 2 different engines. So
Okay,
I don't know.
no problem. I was just looking for a shortcut to kind of liven up some of the ground scenery.
You guys can build models. If you guys know how to model, feel free to build a building or build a hangar or build stuff. That's the scenery objects is something I hope to get down on paper so you guys can do that on your own. It's totally possible. People have obviously done it with Rise of Flight. It was an issue I hope to have fixed by now, but maybe I will make that a bigger effort, and maybe I can look into the Claude objects. But thanks, Murph. I'll put that back on my list of things I need to work on. As far as the SDKs that we wanted to build, the person that was, or create, I should say, the person that was in charge of writing the SDKs for models, our lead modeler, he had some medical issues that he had to attend to this year, and it really screwed up his schedule. The only document he was able to complete is a document for vehicles. It's only in Russian, and the team that's working on the tanks for us has that document, and I think it was helpful to them. I can probably get that translated to English without too much difficulty and make that publicly available. So maybe somebody in the community can learn how to do some vehicles like trucks or other interesting scenery. But as far as SDK documents for buildings and scenery objects and other types of stuff, I don't have them yet, unfortunately. It was one of the things in the Kuban schedule that got all screwed up because poor Mike had some medical issues to deal with. Next question. But anyways, thanks, Murph. I appreciate the question. Hope that answered it for you.
It did. Thanks.
Yep.
In regards to, if I'm
okay, Scorpion, go ahead.
Yeah. First off, I really do hope that you guys continue the focus on a certain time frame. Coming from DCS, I think what killed that game was a lack of focus in terms of creating a cohesive multiplayer environment. So hopefully, stuff around the 1944 gets expanded out, upwards and downwards and both ways. Second, how can the community help you guys to increase the team? What is your objectives? What is your business objectives basically to expand the team? Let's say if is there a possibility of a crowdfunding system for unlocking airplanes like a B-17, which would require a lot of resources to build and to model? So is there a possibility of something like that down the line?
Not really. Just because right now we have, it's just, you got to understand that my guys are Russian and they speak Russian primarily. And the amount of education that is needed to have people or teams of people make content for us is difficult. And I don't want to do crowdfunding if I could all help it. And it's just not a situation like it was with IL-2 1946. It's just not. I just can't have an army of people in the community to build content for us. That's why I'm only partnering with established professional third-party companies that have experience making these types of games. And even that is going to prove to be a challenge to get anything concrete accomplished. So that's where I'm going to put my efforts in the near future, is getting those teams up to speed on how to make content and usable content for us. The community, we've introduced the scripted campaign system to where mission makers can make campaigns for us. We've had some initial success in folks making campaigns for us and adding mission content to the mix. That's been nice to see, although it's not as much as I was hoping for. And I understand that our mission editor is not so easy to learn, so I know why, but I was still hoping for more. When it comes to more models and more when it comes to models and other types of content. That's why I wanted to have some SDKs out there, some documents to explain how that's done, so you guys could add scenery objects or buildings or trucks and maybe even some tanks, AI tanks and things like that. But I don't have those documents quite yet. So I would always like somebody in the community to build something, whether it's skins or missions or maybe some objects. I'm all for it. I'm just going to be very careful in how I approach building airplanes or maps. It's just not an easy process, and I don't want to make promises to the community I can't keep. There's already things that I promised we would have that I don't have. So I'm very hesitant to put out too big of a call for people to come build stuff for us. Now, I did, however, put up in the forums basically a request for people to come to us to help us build some things. I got very, very little interest, and I was very, very disappointed that people haven't come to us to say, Jason, I'm a professional modeler. I would love to build this for you, or do you have something I can build for you and I will work it for a reasonable fee? I just haven't gotten the response that I was hoping to get. And then I see there's all kinds of modelers that do stuff for DCS, that have signed up to work on Cliffs of Dover, that have built stuff for 1946, and they just don't come to us. I don't get it. It's very strange, but it is what it is. And I'm not going to go around begging people to build stuff for us. And I'm not going to go do a big crowdfunding campaign to try to get people to build stuff for us. And then even if I can get people to build stuff for us, who's going to train them? So I really only need to work with, or want to work with, very qualified people who don't need a lot of hand-holding, who I can bring into this process, and that my team can have minimal training for that person. And right now that means working with the two groups that we're working with professionally, and I'm working with people on campaigns, and there's people I work with in the skins department, and eventually I hope there's people I can work with in the scenery department. But right now I don't have anybody. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
It's just
one more question, just adding to it in terms of the first part, which is the integration and compatibility with other scenarios within the game itself. The plane list that was announced is very interesting to a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure the pre-orders hopefully would have shown that numbers. How would the aircraft marks will be, especially on the western side of the airplanes, how would they be selected? So let's say the P-47 D-30 is significantly different from an earlier version of the D series, for example. Would that be done with and allowing as much compatibility with different scenarios, like all the way down to 43? Is that possible? Or is that going to have to be the same scenario with the 109s, where they have to be entirely separate models? Thank you.
You're welcome. No, we try the process for picking what planes to build. First, we identify what type of plane was there at this particular point in time for the battle. And when it comes to the German and Russian stuff, it's we have to pick a series or a model of plane that we think is best representative of the battle. I don't put a whole lot of thought into trying to make, if I build this plane, it can be used in a million different scenarios. I mean, I do take that into consideration, but it's not the overarching deciding factor. When it comes to the Western planes, we haven't decided exactly which series to build, whether it's a 30 or 25, a 15 series. I don't know. When it comes, but the general consensus is we're going to make the P-51D with the bubble top and the P-47D with the bubble top, because I think those were the primary planes that were that participated in late 44, early 45 scenarios. Further research is going to have to be done to nail down the exact model. But I haven't done that yet. We've just kind of sketched out the entire package first, and then now that we have that, when we start to do our research, and Vix starts to do his research on exactly which model plane and which mark we should build, then we'll drill down further and identify the exact mark we want to build. And in some cases, there's multiple choices, right? Like for instance, I chose to do the Tempest over the Typhoon. I think the Tempest is a hotter airplane that performs really well, and I would like to fly it, and I think more of our customers would like to fly it. The Typhoon was more prevalent at those air bases in some ways, but once I build the Tempest, we'll have a lot of information about that family of airplanes. So then going back and building the Typhoon at some point would not be as difficult as if we built it from scratch. So in some cases, just getting one airplane out the door, like with the 109s, this was very helpful. Once we get the 109 G2, then doing the G4, the G6, and the G10 or 14 moving forward, even though there are differences, it greatly speeds up the future work. On the Western side, a lot of these planes, like the 51, the 47, the 38, the Tempest, are completely new aircraft for us. And that means it's going to take longer to build those planes. But once they're built, that research, that knowledge, those models, it's easy for us to go build other versions of those planes. When it comes to like the Spit, the reason I'm not doing the Spit 14 is because it was too much of a different airplane than the Spit Mark V. But the Spit Mark V and the Mark 9 are closer, they're more similar in design, so building the Spit 9 won't be as difficult as if we had to build an original plane. So I take all of that into consideration to try to build a product in a certain time frame.
Yeah, but hopefully, something like the Spit is a very good example. The Spit 9 is essentially the same airplane, but you would have, during its operational time, it would have something like, I think it was 12 pounds of boost on the early versions and about 25 pounds of boost on the later versions. And having that as an attachment can have, can make it more versatile in terms of scenarios. Thank you. That's
Yeah, it makes it more versatile, but it also adds development time, and I have to ask Petrovich to build 2 different engines for the plane.
It's the same engines, just only the boost levels are.
Well, the boost. You want to talk to him about modeling boost systems? He'll talk for hours on end.
Excellent.
So
Thank you,
it's one of those things where I have to, again, it's a balancing act. I have to balance what do we want to do, how much time can we have, how much money can we spend, and who's available to build what for us. And we could build that plane, or we could build this plane. But if we build this plane, it has a bunch of new systems that we don't have modeled, and we'll have to build the systems for that plane. Or we can build this plane, which already utilizes systems that we have. In some cases, I like to push forward for new systems and new technology. And then in some cases, I try to lessen the load on the team by utilizing existing technologies. So this is what me and Han, we go back and forth on for months and months when we're trying to figure out what to build. So what you see announced the other day is primarily what we think we can accomplish with the resources that we currently have. And it's a balancing act. So, but thanks for the question.
Thank you for the answers.
Who's next? Anybody else?
May I ask?
Sure.
Panzerbar.
Panzerbar, sure, go ahead, bud.
Hello, Jason.
Hello.
My question is that in online servers, one of the most popular aircraft on the Luftwaffe side is Messerschmitt 110, and we have Emil E2 for Battle of Moscow scenario, And we have Gustav G2 for Battle of Cuban scenario, but we have no aircraft for us for Stalingrad, because Emil is outdated and very slow, and it is too early to Gustav. And my question is it possible to have a F Messerschmitt? It have airframe from Emil, cockpit from Emil, engines are from Messerschmitt 109 F4 you have already in game, and engine cooling from Messerschmitt 110 G2. So all elements are already done in the game. So could we have that F2 Messerschmitt 110 for Stalingrad scenarios, maps, and so on?
So you want a ME1, you want a BF 110 F2?
Yes,
for Stalingrad?
To fill the gap, yes, because E2 is outdated to Stalingrad, and G2 is too early to Stalingrad, and we have no no aircraft for us.
I see. I would have to, I don't know when I could fit this into the schedule, and I'm imagining that the flight model would have to be adjusted for this F2 model, and it's just not in the schedule at the moment. Doesn't mean we couldn't do it in the future at some point, but right now, I can't say that's going to happen. But I appreciate the suggestion. I'm not as familiar with some of the German marks that you guys are, but all I can say is thanks for the suggestion, and I'll have to talk to Daniel or Petrovich about this and see if there's a way to ever build it.
This will for sure bring you money, because Messerschmitt 110 is rather popular in online servers and so on.
Yeah, I will agree that the 110 is an awesome plane, and I know it's popular. But building, when I do collector planes, sometimes I try to build completely new planes that are interesting, just because they're a cool plane. If we built the 110, it would be this F2 would be a collector plane, and I don't know if it would be a super great seller or not. And I also don't know how difficult it would be to model it. But all I can say is thanks for the suggestion, and I'll have to talk to Daniel about it.
The situation with Yak 1B, the same situation.
Okay, so you're saying it's similar, right? Maybe it's something we could have one of our third-party partners do in the future. But look, there's a lot of planes that I'd like to fill in the gaps, but we have to pick and choose, and sometimes when we pick and choose, something's going to be left out. So, but I appreciate the suggestion, Panzer. I really do.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Who else has a question? I see somebody here says, Anton, you have questions about Flying Circus. Mayakin. You there, bud?
Right, yeah. Hi, Jason. Hi, guys.
Good.
May I ask all 4 questions or just one?
Well, if they're short questions, I can try to answer them shortly.
Okay, I will try to do this short. Flying Circus Volume 1. Will we get same functionality for this game as IL-2 has? I mean, first of all, the editor and the support of custom skins.
Yes. I don't see any problem with that. Once we import the models into the game, putting them into the editor is not extremely difficult. I want people to build missions, so it'll be definitely in the editor and skins, of course.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. Another question. Flight model. Will all new planes in Flying Circus get same flying model as in Rise of Flight, or it will be polished and upgraded according to?
You broke up there, but the question is about flight models for Flying Circus.
Sorry. I have asked if
whether we're going to build new flight models or use the existing ones.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to use the existing ones as the base for Flying Circus. The reason is not because IL-2 Sturmovic's flight model system is inherently better. It's because Rise of Flight's flight model system was specifically designed for World War I airplane. And a lot of the issues you guys complained about with Sturmovik wasn't a defect in the Rise of Flight system. It was the fact that we had to build more powerful airplanes, heavier airplanes that operated at much higher speeds than World War I airplanes. And that resulted in some issues that we didn't foresee and that we had to correct, and that my friend Petrovich spent many sleepless nights dealing with. So it's going to be a situation where we're going to we have to modify the engine to accept flight models that are a different flight model system that we feel is just as good as the existing flight model system, but that was specifically designed for World War I flight models. So we're going to build a subsystem within the existing system so we can bring in the Rise of Flight flight models into the new system, so they will fly and feel like authentic, or as what we thought was an authentic World War I flight model from Rise of Flight. The flight model complaints in Rise of Flight were not so much about how they felt. It was always arguing about their speeds or turning capability and things like that. The complaints about Sturmovik flight models was that the planes didn't feel heavy enough. They didn't. Their pitch was too sensitive and things like that nature. So there's two different. We were trying to fit different types of airplanes with different physical qualities into an engine that wasn't designed to handle them. So we don't want to take World War I planes and stick them into a system that was designed for different types of airplanes and have the same problem happen all over again. So we're going to have a subsystem that accepts, and this is what Petrovich is working on now actually, is we're going to have a system that accepts the raw flight models, one that also saves us time, but it's still going to take Petrovich several months to build this subsystem. But once the subsystem is in there and it will accept Rise of Flight models, that means that the flight models that and the flying characteristics of the existing Rise of Flight planes will be familiar to existing users, and that any complaints that they had now, they can complain about them again when we bring it to Sturmovik. But the complaints are not going to be, wow, the Camel was great in Rise of Flight, and now the Camel sucks in Flying Circus. I don't want to get into those kind of arguments. That's just going to slow us down and cause all kinds of issues. So we're going to have a subsystem that accepts Rise of Flight models for Flying Circus planes, and we're going to continue to make our World War II planes using our World War II engine that is designed for World War II planes. Does that make any sense to you guys? I hope it does. That's really the only way we can do this in a timely fashion, and also to avoid, and this is, again, I'm trying to avoid so many problems by trying to stick a square peg in a round hole, which is what we tried to do before.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
The third question is coming from the second question. You said you tried already Fokker DR1 in L2.
Yeah, we gave it the FW190 flight model, just so it would fly through the sky.
Oh, okay. So then maybe my question won't be so actual. I just wanted to ask, Rise of Fly gives really amazing and magnificent feel of flight. No another flight simulator gives such one. And I just want to ask if we will get fully same feel of flight in flying Circus.
Well, yeah, or in Flying Circus. Yeah, that's the goal, and that's why we're having Petrovich work on this new subsystem to accept those flight models.
Okay, and new subsystem means that, for example, we cannot try Fokker DR1 versus IL-2 or Yak-1 and so on?
We talked about that in the team, and we think it's rather curious if people want to try that. But I don't know what the final result will be. I'm hoping that they can fly side by side within the same sky. But if there was any kind of limitation that prevented that, it probably would be the flight modeling systems. But I'll have to talk to Petrovich about this moving forward and see if we think that's going to be a problem. I believe that it might not be a problem, but he would have to chime in on this. But it might be too early to tell, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, good.
Hold on, Andre, do you want to say anything about this particular topic?
Okay. Well, we are going to combine two engines of flight model, the flight model system for World War I and World War II, and I don't know yet what will be if it will possible to get a battle between the airplanes of different period. Okay, it will be good, but we will try.
Yeah. So without making any promises on this topic, like Andre says, we'll try. But the goal is to preserve the Rise of Flight uniqueness that made those planes so much fun to fly, and not destroy what makes them fun to fly, but bring them up to the new engine, so we can move forward with World War I content. And eventually, my goal is to run out of planes to bring up to the new engine and start making new planes.
Okay.
For World War I mean.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
The last question.
Okay.
After announcement of flying Circus, I have seen that many players have begun to cry that it's not unfair to buy to same planes but with new visual effects. And I just want to ask if you plan to maybe some bonus or so on for players who have whole content on Rise of Light.
Well, all I can say is it's going to take a fair amount of labor to make this happen, and I can't just give away Flying Circus to everybody that owns Rise of Flight, no matter how much they've paid in the past. But I'm hoping I can offer some kind of discount for existing Rise of Flight customers. But that's what I want to do. Whether my business partners or not go along with that plan, that's a whole nother question. But I hope that what we make will be compelling enough that whatever they have to pay for the new product, it will be worth it. I can't give stuff. Let's put it this way. People don't seem to understand that Rise of Flight engine is no longer the same engine that powers Sturmovik. That's why I changed the name of it, because it's completely different at this point. And going back to Rise of Flight to try to enable VR, that means I have to change. I have to make it DX11. I have to make a 64-bit. I have to retrofit it with VR, and then it doesn't benefit for any of the graphical improvements that we've made to the Sturmovik engine. It's more. Let me put it this way. It's more work to go back to Rise of Flight and retrofit it for all the new features than it is to bring the content and the flight models into the new engine. So I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, but even so, it's going to take labor and cost us money to make this happen. And also, you got to remember, Flying Circus is being most of the work is, at least on the content side, is being done by a third-party professional team. They need to get paid. They need to pay their people. So I can't offer a free upgrade. But that doesn't mean I can't offer some kind of possible benefit. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And by the way, let me say to all those
Thank you very
people
much, man.
that supported Rise of Flight, if you didn't support us then, we wouldn't be here today. And I made that clear back then that by investing in our products 7, 8 years ago, you were assuring us a future to where we could improve the genre and make more content. So I hope that they take pride in the fact that they stuck by us way back when. And I've done everything I can over the years to give them discounts and other free content and other improvements to our products over the years that I would hope that their investment, they feel it was a worthwhile investment.
I hope
so.
to.
Thank you to all of those folks that are out there. And I know a lot of them here are, quite a few of them in this chat today are people that have been with us for a long time. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
How about next? Anybody else with a question? Let me, Hooves, you had a couple questions. Let me just go to my friend Hooves real quick. You there, buddy? Mike? His mic is muted, but he had some questions.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. What do you got, man?
So a couple of them were already answered, but the one question I think it's been asked in here 2 or 3 times was, what is the first aircraft slated to be released in the Bodenplatte product, and about when is that slated to come out?
Okay, let me try to answer that real quick. It looks like according to the schedule, it looks like March or April for either the G14 or the Spit Mark 9. Those are probably, and that's probably because those are the first ones we can get out the door.
All right. And then the follow-up to that one is just what is the time period for the entire Bodenplatte release?
It's not going to be finished until probably early fall of 2019. So it's a long process.
All right, that's all I have.
No problem. Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question about I know you mentioned you're not a big fan of crowdfunding, but I mean it's a fantastic way to gauge demand. Would you consider maybe selling a blank $30 collector plane and letting the owner of the collector plane vote against a constrained list of possible collector planes as a way of basically, funding the plane and gauging, supply and demand, getting back to the Panther Bars issue?
Yeah, no, without the resources available to guarantee that the plane can be made, it doesn't. I don't want to do any crowdfunding.
But it's a constrained list. In other words, you would have a candidate list of planes, and basically it's not an open-ended thing. It's like these are a list of candidate planes.
Yeah.
And you pre-bought the blank collector plane, and then you would decide beforehand these are the ones that are feasible.
Yeah, I understand, but who's going to build it? I've already got enough planes on my list to keep me going for 2 years.
Okay.
So I'm just saying it's until I have a window and a team that can build the plane, then okay, maybe we could do a list of planes and see who. Like, I'm sure the Hurricane would win. Like I think that would be a very popular choice for the Eastern Front and the Western Front, just as an example. But if I don't have somebody to build it, I don't even want to ask the question. But it doesn't mean I couldn't do something like that in the future. We did it before. I think we did a poll to see if people wanted us to build the P-40 or another plane in the P-41. So, but as far as crowdfunding goes, I've got the money to build more planes. It's just I don't have the people or the training available to rapidly expand the team beyond what I'm already trying to do. That's all.
Okay, understood. So the money, got it.
Yeah, the money's an issue in the sense that if I had qualified personnel who I knew, I had engineers and modelers that already knew how to build our airplanes and make them in make a plane in 4 to 6 months as an outsourced team. And I knew that they were available. And I had a list of planes I would like to get made. I would have no problem saying, hey guys, what plane would you like us to build? Because I have a team that can build the plane. But right now, I don't have the team. So I don't even want to ask the question because it will just cause a big problem.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all.
Got
okay. Another question. Anybody? We're spitballing here.
Your driving force
Maverick,
on
go ahead.
making the D9 a premium plane instead of throwing that in, because you already have two 109s in the base game.
The
Think
driving
you'd
force
want to have 1 and 1.
The driving force is I want to try, because I looked at the list of planes that we have, and the planes that I could have made a collector plane, I felt that building the Dora would more or less complete the 109, not completely complete it, but it would I didn't want our collector planes this time around to be something super exotic. I mean, I could have made another German jet. I could have done some kind of crazy plane that maybe like the TA-152 or something like that. But I felt that the Dora is a really good plane that people like. I know they have it for DCS. That wasn't the driving force behind it. I just wanted a good German plane that was similar enough to things that we already had that could have showed up on the battlefield in this time frame or shortly thereafter, that saw action, that I think users would be interested in flying. We have a lot of German aircraft fans who play our game, and I want to try to get as many sales as possible. So I picked a plane that I think would be popular, but at the same time kind of round out the 109 family of airplanes. And the P-38, I think, is going to be a fun plane to fly in our engine, and I think it's going to look beautiful. So I thought that those two planes would make a great collector plane addition to the overall product. It's not because I dislike any other airplanes or I want to compete with DCS or anything like that. It's just I was thinking, what can my guys build in a reasonable time frame that would be attractive to users and to make the plane set for this time period make sense, and also be attractive to customers. So that's why I went with the Dora. I hope that answers your question. There's so many great planes to choose from. It's really not easy to do, and we have discussions internally with the team, and some people are very adamant that we should do this plane or that plane. It's ultimately up to me. But I think the Dora is going to be a good choice. And then I think we're only missing. Okay, I think we're missing only. I mean, as far as the overall marks for the 109, we're missing like the G10, and we're missing maybe there's another K model, and maybe there's an early Emil that maybe we should build at some point. But the 109 family is really starting to really be, represented very heavily in our sim. So I like that, because there were tons of them in the war. So I like that.
Yeah, I was also wondering, do you ever plan on doing more than 10 planes in a single expansion?
It's very difficult for us. We try to work on a certain time scale, and we try to time our releases, and we try to estimate our sales, and we try to estimate our budget. Doing 10 planes with our current internal team, with the amount of engineers that we have, is about the maximum we can produce in a 16 to more like 18 to 22 month time period. But as if our collaboration with these third-party teams pan out, we might be able to make more than that in a year. And actually, not a year, but in one development cycle. And actually, it's more than 10. It's actually more like 12, because we do 10 for the main title, and then we end up usually doing a couple collector planes on top of that, attached to that development cycle. Like in this case, you're getting the LA5FN and the G6 basically right after we finished Kuban development. And they started work on those planes during the development cycle for Kuban. So although there's 10 in the main title, we usually try to throw in a couple extra collector planes in the intervening months between products. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. I see people in the chat asking stuff. Okay. Okay. I'll take Stuka and Hearn. You have. Let's go Stuka and then Hearn. Stuka, go ahead. What are your two questions?
Yes, thanks. Well, one is on behalf of Klaus Mann, who isn't here attending tonight. But my personal question is about the Flying Circus add-on. How compatible will it be to the current IL-2 series? Like, to give you an idea, will we be able to fly missions with IL-2 aircraft over World War I France, or will we have shared clients, split clients, and what is the multiplayer going to look like?
No. Okay. Well, okay, so this kind of gets back to the earlier question with Petrovich about the flight models and whether you can fly a Fokker in the same sky as an IL-2. We'd like to make that possible because that would mean that our engine is quite flexible. I don't see us having. I don't want to do split clients. We're just going to have one client. I don't see that being a problem, but we might have to bifurcate World War I content from World War II content. As far as the airplanes go. As far as the maps go, there would be no problem flying a 109 over the Flying Circus map. The map is not a problem because all of our maps are going to use the same technology. There's no difference. The only question is whether we can have two different flight model systems that are similar but slightly different coexisting in the same sky. So that is a challenge to our friend Petrovich to see if he can make that happen. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
And for the second question, I want to apologize in advance because Klaus is a bit nerdy. It's a bit more technical. So, do you want to expand? Do you want to expand your selection of mods and features for aircraft in future? Like, to give you an example, Stuvis, the dive visors for German dive bombers, or AB drop containers for bomblets for German bombers, having jettisonable EC-50 bomb racks, and stuff like that.
Those are all systems, and the man in charge of systems is Mr. Petrovich. And I already asked him to do a lot. I don't know if he has the time to do all of these smaller things. I would like to get to a point in the future after we build jet technology, after we update the net code or other things that he needs to be involved with. I hope that in the future, whether it's 1 year from now, 2 years from now. Oh, Ginger, mute your mic. I don't know if I can mute him myself, can I? Okay, there we go. I hope that we get to a point in the future where Petrovich's time can be devoted to solving and adding all of these additional smaller features that you're talking about. But right now, we still have some big features that I need him to work on. So once we get to a point in the future where he doesn't have to work on such big issues, I can have him focus on smaller issues that make the overall product that more realistic or that much more interesting to pilots. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will pass it on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to do, but I have to prioritize and do triage and figure out what it is we can do with what we have available to us. And I know I said a lot. I say this all the time, and I said it last year when we did this talk, and nothing's really changed. But I continue to try to find ways to build as much as I can for you guys.
Understandable.
No problem. Is it Herne?
Hi, hello everybody.
Hello.
I just wanted to say a massive thank you for the VR implementation. It's absolutely wonderful.
No problem.
And I was just wondering if there were any further plans to sort of optimize it with your coming production cycle?
Well, not really. I mean, we already have a really pretty damn great VR implementation. As far as optimization goes, there's really not much more we can optimize on. We've optimized the overall engine to allow more AI aircraft. We've improved other graphical effects, improved performance. We did 64-bit, DX11, the VR implementation. We've also made other tweaks to improve performance. And I honestly don't know what else we can do to boost frame rate with VR. What I'm hoping is that the VR hardware will somehow get faster to where drawing three-dimensional objects twice on the same screen or two separate screens will become more optimized in that way to where we don't have to worry about optimizing our product so much. Look, I like VR. I think it's cool. I have a long history with Natural Point and with Tracker, so I've been a long time proponent of VR. What I don't like about the VR companies as they currently exist is that they put a lot of the responsibility for supporting VR onto the developer. And they were asking developers, I mean, granted, some of the developers are very big and profitable and they have off-the-shelf engines and they can do all kinds of great stuff and not kill their team. But when they're asking a small team like mine to devote several months of our lead programmer to adopt their headset, telling us that if we adopt their headset, we're going to get 1 billion more customers. That's bullshit. It doesn't work that way. We're a niche team in a niche market with a niche product, and supporting VR was a big thing for us. We're glad that people like it, and we think we did a great job, but there's got to come a point in the future where their technology, whether it's the video card itself, or it's the goggles, or it's how they draw the scene, or their processors or something, they have to help us as much as we've tried to help them. And so right now, I don't have any plans to quote unquote optimize our VR any further because I don't know where to optimize. I don't know where there's a problem. All I see right now is their goggles and their technology uses existing video rendering computations to draw the scene. But we're supposed to constantly optimize and update our engine to accommodate their goggles. Well, how about they help us? Why don't they help their goggles adapt to our product a little bit more? So I'm hoping that the hardware will get faster and I don't have to spend so much time optimizing my game for their goggles. But I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen when the next generation comes around of VR hardware and video cards. But when I compare our VR performance against other similar products, I'm quite happy with how ours turned out. And I hope that the hardware gets faster. And I hope that the VR market matures a little bit more and becomes more mainstream to where I can see a larger return on investment when it comes to spending time on VR. But don't get me wrong, I like it. People like to say that I'm against VR, but I'm not really against VR. I'm against us having to do all the work because that's harmful to my overall goal of making a cool product. And still, to this day, the overwhelming majority of our customers fly on a screen. I fly on a screen. I play the VR for a few hours here and there, and I enjoy it. But you got to put the headset on. You gotta load it all up. It's just not as seamless as just sitting down at the computer with a nice big screen in your face and flying. So there's always going to be people flying with monitors, and then there's going to be a subset of those customers flying with VR. We've made a big effort to support VR. It turned out great. I know the performance is not always 90 frames a second, but it's a lot of the time with the right video settings in our engine, it's pretty damn close. And with the right hardware on your end, it's pretty damn close. So I happy with our VR implementation at this point, but about what further we can do to make it run faster, I would have to start removing features that you guys would not be happy about. So I'm hoping that the hardware, video cards, the goggles, get faster so I don't have to remove features. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Can't wait to try it in Flame Circus.
No, see, that's going to be great. That is definitely going to cause buzz for Flying Circus and help sales to some degree. And I hope that maybe it will inspire some of these VR companies to, find ways to make their product, their hardware faster. But as far as optimization, I really don't know what else I can do except completely junk our rendering system and build a new one from scratch, which will take years, or start removing graphical objects or graphical features, or dumb down our flight model or dumb down our AI, and that's going to start impacting gameplay. So I'm kind of at right now. We're at kind of where we've done as much as we can do. So again, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
No problem. Let's see here.
Jason,
more
if you don't
questions.
mind.
Somebody who hasn't asked a question yet. Somebody go ahead. Anybody? Anybody new with a question?
I got Kailei's question.
Okay, Moch, go ahead. What's Kailei's question?
He's asking about developing a possible multi-threaded multiplayer client, like in Linux, so that people don't need to buy a Windows server license.
That's something for our lead programmer, and right now it's not on the docket. It's not on the list.
Okay.
I mean, it would be cool. Maybe he can do it, but I still have a laundry list of things I need him to work on, and that's not one of them. I'm sorry.
Alrighty then.
No problem. Anybody else here? Bluebot, you ask about MTO, channel map, and agreement with Team Fusion. Are you there? Where'd you leave? Looks like he left. Basically, I don't know. He has no mic. I'm not planning to go to the Mediterranean anytime soon, and I'm not all that interested in a channel map. As far as agreement with Team Fusion, we have an agreement with them for them to make their North Africa campaign and to update Cliffs of Dover so they can, Cliffs of Dover won't be such a buggy mess. And they've been doing a great job, and they're working hard, and I have no problem with that. But they are going to go to the Mediterranean, and I don't feel it's good for us to compete directly with them, because it would just we'd start to cannibalize the market, and people wouldn't necessarily buy both of our products. They would end up buying one or the other. And my goal for Team Fusion's products is to have them make what they want to make that's not necessarily the same product as what we're making. But maybe in 5 years, after they've done the Mediterranean, maybe we'll go to the Mediterranean. Don't quote me on that, but it's, I gotta wait and see how their work turns out first. Okay, Sketch, you ask about the view distance of airplanes. I would love to somehow increase that. I've talked about this before.
I'm just concerned about how planes are going to get faster as we move up in the years. It's going to be at 9.4. It's going to be an issue, I think, because there's no planes. I'm good. And you check your 6, and all of a sudden, here comes somebody 800, 900 kph. Like, oh, there he is.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I would love to do some kind of hybrid system with a dot or whatever for longer distances, like it's been done before. And I've talked to the team about it. It's something we're going to look into, but I don't know when I can haven't implemented.
I also
But
have,
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I also want to see how things pan out with the new Sky and the new Horizon, because my experience with it is that it's easier to spot other airplanes at longer distances than it is with the current haze. So I'm hoping that some of those issues will be alleviated with the new sky effects that we have in the works. But I want to get feedback on that first before I start having the team work on specific solutions to try to quote unquote draw airplanes further out. And of course, I would love to draw trees and buildings out for many, many, many more kilometers. But so far, we're running into some issues where we'd have to do some new technology to do that. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
yeah, I had one more of those.
Well,
Okay.
sure, go ahead.
I was curious. I know you had said nothing about Linux on the D server, but are there any plans to improve the D server performance? We're having issues at more than 70 players.
Yeah,
Would
we've
be
always
nice to
had
have.
those issues. Yeah. Yeah, and again, that's down to us synchronizing too many things in the beginning and not having a dedicated programmer for dedicated server all these years. It's a resource issue. It's a personnel issue. I'm not sure that whether multi-threading or whatever this people want us to do is the solution to issues with D server or multiplayer in general. But again, I want to see how co-op goes. I want to see if the co-op system highlights any clear problems with our netcode before I go push a bunch of resources to changing how multiplayer functions. I think that co-op will kind of develop its own following, and I want to see how players embrace it. I want to see how mission makers embrace it, and I want to see how that pans out before we do anything further with a netcode optimization or changes. I think that's the prudent way to go, and I think my guys understand that that's the right way to go too. But Daniel Hahn is very concerned about netcode. He always has been. He doesn't like how it performs sometimes, and I would like to have more players in our multiplayer. But again, I say this, nobody seems to believe me, but our physics modeling and our ballistics and our environment is just more detailed than what you get with Cliffs of Dover or you get with other flight sims, whether it's War Thunder or 1946 or whatever. Nobody seems to believe me, but it's true. So putting 100, 200 users in a server with our system, you're asking the hardware to do a lot. And I'm not sure multi-threading or multi-core or other kinds of changes to the system is going to improve it. What might improve it is optimizing what is synchronized and what's not synchronized, what's server side, what's client side. So those are the kinds of things we have to look at. It's in our heads to do this, but when we're assigning people to work on various things for the next product, we had to admit to ourselves that we're kind of stuck with the system we have today for a bit further. So that's that. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there, but that's all I can really say on that subject. Okay.
Can I follow up on that
hardware? Go ahead, Tomo.
That hardware part. You said it puts a lot of pressure on the hardware, but we have been now running our Finnish virtual pilot server for about 2 years, and we've never seen the dedicated server use any more than, let's say, 30% of one core. So it's not putting any pressure on the server machine, but still the problems are there. The lag.
No, but it might not be putting pressure on the CPU, but it's putting pressure on your network card.
No, because we are using about 10 megabits per second, and we have a 1000 megabit connection.
Okay, so there's a lot of data about everything being synchronized that's flying around, and people are losing packets somewhere.
Yeah,
it's causing lag.
it's...
Okay, so it might be a software issue. Like I said, it might be a synchronization issue, or some other software issue. But again, I want to see how the co-op goes, because not everybody's going to have a big, powerful server to host co-op. So that might reveal some kind of problem we have with hardware that might open us up to finding a solution that might solve problems on any kind of hardware. It's just, again, I'm not a programmer myself, so I probably say things that aren't true when I talk about hardware. But all I can say is we're pushing more information for our multiplayer because of our physics environment, because of our ballistics, because of other things that other flying games are not pushing. So just in generally speaking, because we're pushing a lot of that information, you're going to have issues either with hardware or with software where there's packet loss and there's problems. I understand we want to optimize and fix and improve the situation, but I either do that with my lead programmer for 6 months or a year, or I have him work on other stuff that have a more immediate impact on the product line. If I had 2 of this guy, we could solve this, but I don't have 2 of this guy. I just have this one guy. So I have to pick and choose what I work on. I'm not saying I'll never get done. I'm just saying it's not something I'm going to do tomorrow. And we've built in some time in the schedule for over the next 20 months where he might be able to start to work on this. And I hope to be able to hire another programmer in the future that can team up with him on this and they can make it better. But I just don't have any concrete dates or concrete plans for you to discuss today. So again, I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you. Well,
All
one
right.
more follow-up.
Please try your best to live with what we got for now.
Yeah, thank you. But can I ask one more?
Sure.
Okay, about the D server still. We have been running, as I said, about 2 years our server, and the D server crashes or jams about once a day, or give or take, once or twice, or it may go a few days without crashing, but it still does this, and we have no idea why it does it. We have nothing in the logs that indicates why it's crashing. I have been pestering Han a couple of times about this, and he hasn't given me any clear answer or helped me anyway.
Because he doesn't have one, and we don't know either. So this is why this whole issue is going to take up an enormous amount of time of somebody or a couple people on the team. And if I announce tomorrow that there's not going to be any new other improvements to the game, and we're going to spend a year on multiplayer servers, the 5 or 10% of my customer base that buys product from us will be happy, and the 90% or so of people who don't play multiplayer are going to be pissed off that I'm not giving them something else. So it's a business decision too, unfortunately. I need to find a way to rectify, to reconcile both sides of the same coin. So all I can say is please try to be patient, and if you have any data that is useful to Han and the team, feel free to send it, and maybe it will help us. But I know that the D server is not ideal. I know that our netcode is not ideal. But these are horrible types of decisions and choices I have to make to push the product line forward and to try to get us more resources, get us more money, and get us, into the future. But I appreciate the feedback, and feel free to contact me anytime if you see any weird behavior of the D server or the net code that you can identify and want to point it out to me. Feel free to send it. I have no problem. Take a look at it.
Okay, I will send the data to you in an email.
Sure, no problem.
I have one more question. Sorry, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm curious about Twitch box art. Are you guys have any plans on getting a box art for the Twitch streams and the YouTube streams? Right now, there's nothing there.
Oh, Twitch again. I gotta get more involved with Twitch. Do I need to contact Twitch to do this? I don't even know. So we're saying we don't have any box art or for the title itself.
No, when you log into Twitch and you select the IL2 Stormovic, there's no box art there.
Oh, I guess I have to contact Twitch, huh? I don't know. They haven't contacted us. Don't they see that there's no box art? I guess
Classy Packs posted how to submit it
in the forum.
Yes, sir. I posted the link on the channel.
Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. Let me write that down. I'll have to work on that. Twitch box art. Okay. All right, Sketch. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else with a question? I got another 20 minutes or so, then I got to go.
Here, Buttons again.
I'll put that.
I have a question about the ME262. And it's something that popped up on the forums these days since the announcement of the new title. And it's about the the engines. Do you remember in 1946 it was really crap and unforgiving to use these shit engines? Maybe it's too early now for the question, but have you ever discussed or decide how they will be implemented? If you can slam the throttle or anything like that without catching fire? Everybody knows that the early Jumo 004 engine were prone to catch fire, but you know how it will be in this new IL2 title?
Well, I don't know how exactly it will perform, but I'm confident that Petrovich will build a convincing or at least plausible scenario for our jet engines. We've blocked out a number of months for him to work on this technology, to build the jet engine technology, and to build flight characteristics into the engine for higher Mach numbers. I guess I understand that there's some aerodynamic effects that take place at higher speeds that we don't currently model because some of our propeller planes don't reach those speeds, or what have you. But I'm pretty sure he'll be able to build an engine that has to be handled in a proper manner. I don't think you can slam the throttle like a piston plane or anything like that. Since he's here, does he want to say anything? Petrovich, you want to comment on the jet engines you're going to be working on?
I have not started this task yet, but I think that the manage of the jet engine will be pretty the same of prop engine. I mean, the numbers of controls, whatever.
I think what he's asking, Andre, is that there were certain the jet engine needs to be handled a bit differently than the piston engine as far as throttle management. If you heat it up too much, or you spin that turbine too quickly, or you make mistakes with the engine management, that the engine can catch fire and fail. And I think that's what he's looking for us to take that into consideration as we build the system.
Yes, it's actually that, because in 1946 it was too overdone. You couldn't even just push the engine, not slam it to full power at 1 second, but normal increase of the power in 1946 mostly ended up in a engine fire.
Okay, didn't end up in a fire. You're talking about IL2 1946, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't really compare our engine to that engine because ours is completely different. But what I can say is that I'm sure what Petrovich is saying is that the systems in the aircraft are similar, even though the engine is a different type of engine. The systems overall are similar. The controls are similar. But you're talking about is performance of the engine, and if you mismanage the engine, you want some kind of ability to set it on fire or make the engine fail, which was sort of realistic to how it worked in real life, correct? You don't want it to be like IL-2 1946, where you could just slam the throttle and not worry about things breaking, correct? Uh-oh, looks like I lost.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So Petrovich, do you follow what we're talking about?
I'm going to simulate the jet engine differently, of course. Comparing to prop engine. So this it will have the differently mechanics model and temperature model. So it's another system.
Right. But I think what the concern is here is that they want it to be modeled as a sort of delicate engine that you need to fly it properly to avoid a flame out or a fire. That's all.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so guys, don't sweat these engines too much because it's still early. He hasn't begun work on the jet engine. He's still working on flying circus flight model stuff at the moment and finishing I believe the Yak 7 flight model. So, Petrovich knows what he's doing. Given enough time, he can build anything and model any system. We will try to make the jet engine for the 262 as realistic as we can. And it's noted, I've noted here that it's a delicate engine that might flame out or catch fire if we mismanage the engine. So I will talk to Petrovich in the course of development to try to make sure that we have a believable jet engine that behaves and gets damaged in hopefully a realistic manner. Okay?
Okay, thank you for your answer.
No problem. Let's see, jet engine. Okay, who else has a question here?
Can I throw a question out there, Jason?
Sure, go ahead, Squirrel.
Yeah, so something kind of with Rise of Flight, but with World War II as well. Like I really like how with the Spitfire and some of the aircraft in Battle of Kuban, you have the alternate engines like the LA-5.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a possibility for some of these later titles like Battle of Bodenplatte and like Flying Circus? Because I think with Rise of Flight, one of the problems was most of the Albatross used the same kind of engine parameters as each other, even though you're looking at like 5 years of war progressing. And I think that was some of the problems people had with the flight models. They're like, why is a D2 as fast as a camel kind of a thing at the end of the day?
Well, look, I mean, there's different whenever possible, we try to offer an alternative modification to a plane that was pretty clear and understandable. I see people asking us to model the MW50 injection system for German planes. That would be great, but we have to build that system. And if I build that system, Petrovich can't work on another thing. So it's again, it's difficult to build everything that people want. We're not a study sim, so there's going to be some areas where we're not as detailed as a study sim, but the overall feeling of our product is we try to highlight the differences and model the differences between the different planes and the different engines and things like that. Given enough time and money, we can do anything. I said this 1,000 times. But for this particular period of development, we're going to do our best to model the 262 and its jet engines and model these high-powered late war piston planes as best as possible. Whether we can add in special features like MW50 injection or other hot rod modifications, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how the schedule pans out. But doesn't mean we can't do it in the future. But
yeah, and part of what I ask is just like, because I know I'm not well versed in it, but I know like the P51D and the P47D there's like variations within that with like different horsepowers and stuff. Is that kind of a consideration? Or?
Yeah, well, and like I said before, we'll drill down to identify. First, we have to identify the exact model we want to build, and what does that entail. And then, is there a way, maybe something clear for us to do to modify the engine to have one type of engine like we've done in the past? We did it with the Brisfit and in Rise of Flight, and we've done it with the Haberstadt CL2. We did it with the Spitfire with the Merlin 45 and the 46 engine. We did it, I believe, with the LA5 and its F modification. So there's times when we can do that kind of stuff. Whether or not, I mean, I'm not going to be able to model every single mark of the P51D and whatever I forget the different ones, but I know there's different slight changes to each production batch, I guess you could say. But just like we do with the Russian planes, we pick a series, like the LA5FN Series 2 is what we're building. And that's the primary plane. Whether, if there was a way to add a different engine modification or something that was pretty clear, we might be able to do it. But I can't say for sure that I can do this for every airplane, especially the Western stuff, because I'm sure there was a wide variety of changes that were made. So we have to drill down, identify which model we want to build that makes most sense for our goals, and then we'll first build that. And then if there's anything obvious that we can do to offer a modification, then maybe we can do it. But I can't make any guarantees at this point. And as far as the flying circus stuff, we got to go back 100 years to figure out how different World War I engines affected performance of World War I planes. That's really tough. So I think
at this stage, one of the best solutions we could have here is to crowdfund cloning Petrovich.
Well, yes.
Totally, we should, yeah.
We talk about that all the time in the office. Yeah. We need to clone him. If we can clone him, and then we can make some more progress. That's for sure. But unfortunately, due to the very custom nature of our engine, it's very hard to bring in another engineer to understand his system and his design and his code. And we've not been able to do that up to this point. We are able to bring in additional engineers to build flight models, but we have not been able to bring in any additional engineer to build new systems. So this is the problem. And he knows this, and I'm sure it gives him some good job security, but cloning him would be ideal, yes. But then I don't know if I could live with two Petroviches. He gives me a hard enough time. Right, Andre? No, he's not going to answer that one.
He loves his job too much.
Yeah. Well, his work is extremely important and extremely detailed, and sometimes trying to dial back what he wants to do to fit our timeline is quite difficult sometimes. Believe me, he's on your side. He wants to make very realistic, complete systems that are very believable. He's definitely on your side of the equation. Anyways, let's I got another 10 minutes or so. Who's got another question? Anybody?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
This is Lofte. I'm from Russia. I have two short questions.
Okay.
First question is about lightning or flare bombs. Is there any chance we will see it in the game?
Okay, so like a flare that lights up the battlefield.
Excuse me?
A flare that lights up the battlefield. A star shell.
Yes. And second question is about radio beacon system in the game. Would it possible to improve a current system To just let to pilot to switch between different radio beacons of his
Yeah,
side.
I've seen this requested before. I'm sure it's possible if we could build it. Is that I don't fly a lot worrying about the radio beacons myself. But I think right now the way it's modeled, how do we do it? I think it's tuned to the nearest one, and you want to be able to change it, right, to different ones.
Right.
Yeah, that would be cool. I have no problem with the idea. Maybe that's something we could work on, but I need to talk to. I don't know. That might be a programming issue. Okay, and then about the star shells.
Yes.
We already have flares, but you want one that lights up really big, right? Like they used to do in the war. I mean, I assume that's possible on a special effects.
Yeah, we already have searchlights in the game.
Yeah.
Why not to add, star shells or flare bombs?
Flare bomb. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I just don't know. Is that going to be useful in the game itself?
It will be very useful for bombers.
At night. Are there a lot of people flying night missions, though? I always wonder sometimes, some of these requests would be really cool, but I'm wondering if anybody would use them.
We would love to do more night missions. Just saying.
Okay. All right, so star shell effect and radio beacon changing. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for the question. I'm sorry I don't have a clear answer for you. These would be additions to the game, and I would have to talk to the team and see if they're possible. And if they're not possible this time around, maybe they're possible next time around. But I will talk to the team about these two issues. The radio beacons thing, I would imagine, is doable, but in multiplayer, that would require some change to the netcode to support it, I would assume. But it's probably not that simple. Maybe in single player it's simple, but not in multiplayer. Star shells is a special effect. We already have flares, but we'd have to somehow increase the radiance of the shell, like 10-fold or 20-fold or 100-fold. I'm not sure how much, and I'm not sure how much area a star shell from World War II would light up. Like, does it light up a couple hundred meters of ground, or does it light up a kilometer of ground? I have no idea. Do you?
A little. I see several photos in the books.
Oh, okay.
There is, I don't know how to say. I am not good in English, sorry.
That's okay. Your English is pretty good. I follow you.
So, if you need some information about that, I think I can find it. Find it.
Find it. Okay. All right. Well, just I don't see this happening tomorrow, but stay in touch with me on it, and I'll talk to the team about it and see if there's anything, if it's hard to do or easy to do, or if there's a way to fit in such a thing. I'm more interested in the radio beacon opportunity than I am the star shells, but it might I mean, seeing the effect in the engine would be really cool. So I'm not against that. I think the radio beacon might be more interesting for gameplay than the star shells, but I'll have to look into it. But thanks a lot for the question.
Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Got another 5 minutes.
Quick one, Jason, if possible.
Okay,
I've got one for myself and one for Dave, who hasn't got a mic.
Okay.
The first question is, with the mods on mode, what are you actually going to allow? I mean, I was thinking about possibly, if you look at things like in-game flight planning tools, or audio or radio. That's my question. So obviously, what do you plan for? What are you going to allow for mods on? And Dave has got a question. As I say, he hasn't got a mic. He's saying that the summer scenario for Bodenplatte doesn't really fit in with the scenario. It should probably be more early spring. And his other bit of that question is, he was saying there were no M4A2s at Kursk to the best of his knowledge, but there should have been Churchill tanks there instead. So I don't know anything about that, but those are his questions, Jason.
Okay. I don't know if maybe there were no Shermans at Kursk, but the tank selection for tank crew was one to try to build a scenario that had enough vehicles to make a map of Prokhorovka interesting from the battle perspective. Then the other consideration was let's make some tanks that we know people would be interested in playing, not only for a Kursk scenario, but also for a European scenario, or Moscow or Kuban or Stalingrad. Not that the Shermans were there either, but look, when we're making a new type of product, I want to try to stick to the history of the battle to a large degree. But when we're making a new title, I also want to make a product that is attractive to try to get people to buy in. So that's why you might see some tanks on this list that weren't necessarily at Kursk. Instead of a M4A2, maybe I should have a Churchill or something. I don't know. But we haven't built the tanks yet, so maybe that's why I said in the list, I said it was a tentative list, because maybe it will change. So we've had discussions internally about different tank models and stuff, so that list may change. But I also want to make sure I offer a list of tanks that are interesting to users from maybe different countries. Maybe in future editions we can be more strict on what tanks are in the tank set for that particular battle that we're trying to model, or maybe we don't have a map in the future, but we make a tank set that's for existing maps that we already have. I don't know. This is an experiment with the tanks in some ways, and we're gonna see how it goes. So I hope that answered your question on tanks. What was the other question? I'm so sorry. I spaced it, the first half.
Yeah, the other question that Dave had was about the scenario of Bodenplatte. He says that the summer map probably wouldn't fit the scenario. It would be early spring.
Let me just put it this way. The winter map is a must because Bodenplatte happened January 1st, and the map will have probably a snowy, patchy look to it. Then for entertainment's sake, we're going to have what I call a green map of some sort. Whether it's autumn or early spring or the summer, I don't know, but it would probably be it's going to be more green than the winter map. And because I probably don't have time to make all 4 seasons or 3 seasons, it's probably best that we have a green map and a winter map. The green map can be spring, the green map could be summer. It might even be early fall. I don't know. Kuban, we were able to do 3 seasons. Maybe I can pull off 3 seasons with a Bodenplatte map, but it remains to be seen. All I know is I want to have an alternative to winter. Whether that alternative is fall or summer or early spring, couldn't tell you exactly, but all I know is I want to have a map that's prettier than the winter map. I mean, our map technology is great, but when you start putting snow on the ground, as we know with Moscow and Stalingrad, for whatever reason, a snowy map just doesn't attract people like summer maps do or spring maps. I know this because I remember Rise of Flight, we had 3 different seasons and nobody gave a shit about winter map or the fall map. Most people played on the summer map. So I'm trying to make the product as attractive as possible. So we'll have a winter map and we'll have another season at a minimum, and it will possibly be summer, maybe spring, but I'm not sure how that part of the world looks because I've never been there in those seasons. I've never actually hung out in Belgium, or the Netherlands. I've been to Western Germany a couple times in the summer, and it looked pretty green. And it was in August, and it was still green. So again, we're gonna have to do a bit of research on how it should look in the other season besides winter.
I've been to the Netherlands in the winter, and it was surprisingly green.
Okay. But I know that winter of 44, 45 was pretty damn cold.
Yeah, not that winter, yeah.
Yeah, so And I know that from what I understand, the accounts of the Battle of the Bulge or Ardennes and the Battle of Bodenplatte, that there was snow on the ground and that it may not have been completely covered in snow, but there was quite a bit of snow. So it might be, like I'm saying, it might be kind of a blotchy landscape where there's a texture of like brownish, greenish foliage, and then there's a bunch of snow, on the map too. So it might be a mix of both. But more research will have to be done.
And just my question, Jason, was about the mods on. I mean, what sort of things will you allow?
Yeah. Right now, our plans for mods on is basically what we have with Rise of Flight, which is pretty open to doing mods. As far as sounds and stuff, I have no problem. I want to do that. I want to be able to change sounds, but as Daniel will tell you, to change sounds in our engine, you have to hack the Fmod system, which I guess can be done. I know some people have already done it, but I don't know what that entails, and I don't know how difficult it is. Our sound system is much different than what you have with 1946. So I don't know exactly what can be done. I know people want to. Well, with Rise of Flight, you were able to change the gun sounds and quite a few things. So it'll probably be the same with Sturmovik. The only thing we definitely don't want you changing is the flight models. Like, we don't want that, and we didn't allow that with ROF, and we won't allow that with Sturmovik.
Thanks very much, Jason.
Yeah,
cheers.
No problem. Okay, I'm out of time, guys. We've been at this for about 3 hours. I have an appointment today at 10:30 I have to get to. So I am so sorry, but I would love to go another couple hours, but I have to go. I will do another one of these as Bodenplatte and Flying Circus and Tank Crew is being worked on, and to answer more questions. And I want to thank everybody for attending, and I want to thank all of you that have already pre-purchased Bodenplatte and pre-purchased the new collector planes. Everything is looking up and up. I'm looking forward to working with our new development partners on tanks and Flying Circus. So all I can say is, guys, keep the faith, and 2018 is going to be a very interesting year for our team and our project. So again, thank you very much, guys. I see a lot of my friends here that I talk to, outside of these discussions. So thank you for attending. And Petrovich, thanks for coming. And I appreciate your input.
Thank you very much.
All right. And I'll talk to you soon when you're in Florida.
I hope I hope about it. And sorry guys for my English. I promise I will improve it pretty soon.
He says that all the time. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, guys, I want to again, thanks for coming, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jason, for your time.
No problem. Bye-bye.